Meet Barry the human pogo stick. Barry wasn't your average kid. Sure, he liked video games and loathed vegetables like the rest of them. But Barry had a unique quirk. He couldn't stop humping the air. Not just a little wiggle here and there, no sir. We're talking full-on, pelvis-thrusting, eye-popping humping action. It was like he had an invisible pogo stick permanently attached to his crotch. The first time it happened, Barry's parents thought he was having some kind of seizure. They rushed him to the hospital, panicked and confused. Imagine their embarrassment when the doctor, after a thorough examination, simply chuckled and said, "Looks like you've got yourself a little humping enthusiast." From that day forward, Barry and his humping became a local legend. Now you might be picturing a cute little kid wiggling his hips. Don't be fooled. Barry's humping was a force of nature. His eyes would bulge out like a chameleon's, his tongue lolled out, and his entire body would contort with each thrust. It was both alarming and strangely hypnotic. The worst part? He always aimed it at someone. At the supermarket, he'd hone in on the unsuspecting granny in the cereal aisle. At the park, it was the pigeon's lucky day. It didn't matter who you were. If Barry decided you were his target, there was no escaping the hump. Life with Barry was never dull. His humping added a certain to even the most mundane events. Take his sister's wedding, for instance. Picture this. The bride is walking down the aisle, everyone's teary-eyed, and suddenly from the back pew, wham! Barry lets loose with a celebratory humping fit aimed directly at the blushing groom. Or how about the time at his grandpa's funeral? Just as the priest began the eulogy, praising Grandpa's peaceful nature, Barry decided it was the perfect time to unleash a particularly aggressive humping session, eyes locked on the coffin. You could practically hear the gasps of horror mixed with stifled laughter. School, you might think, would be a disaster. And you'd be right. Show and tell became a whole new kind of show. Parent-teacher nights were just plain awkward. The principal threatened suspension. But even he couldn't suppress a chuckle at the absurdity of it all. Swimming lessons were a sight to behold. Picture Barry in his tiny blue Speedos, clinging to a kickboard, his little legs churning the water. Suddenly, the humping urge would strike. There he'd be, bobbing up and down like a demented buoy, his instructor red-faced with a mixture of amusement and sheer terror. Meow! Get off! It wasn't just people who were subjected to Barry's unique brand of affection. The family cat, Mittens, bore the brunt of it. Poor Mittens. She'd be curled up in a sunbeam, enjoying some well-deserved feline peace when, bam! Barry would pounce, his hips gyrating with the fury of 1,000 suns. Mittens, being a cat, learned to tolerate Barry's eccentricities with a disdainful flick of her tail. But deep down, you just knew she was plotting her revenge. Maybe she'd cough up a hairball on his pillow, or perhaps she'd perfect the art of the well-timed hiss and scratch combo. Barry's parents tried everything to curb his humping habit. They tried reasoning with him, they tried bribery, they even resorted to good old-fashioned threats. Nothing worked. "Barry, sweetheart," his mom would say, "we need to talk about your enthusiasm. It's not appropriate for all occasions." Barry would just stare at her with those big, innocent eyes and say, "But Mommy, it feels good. What do you say to that?" Eventually they realized they had two choices. Lock Barry in a padded room for the rest of his life, or embrace the hump. They chose the latter. They learned to see the humor in it. They warned strangers about Barry's little quirk, and they even started placing bets on who would be the lucky recipient of his next humping attack. Life with Barry was chaotic, unpredictable, and always entertaining. He taught them that sometimes, you just have to laugh at the absurdity of it all. As Barry grew older, the humping fits became less frequent, but no less legendary. He became a bit of a local celebrity, known for his unique brand of physical comedy. He even considered starting his own interpretive dance troupe called Barry and the Hump-A-Lot Dancers. Who knows what the future holds for Barry? Maybe he'll channel his humping energy into something more productive. Maybe he'll become a world-famous breakdancer, or maybe he'll just continue to spread joy and bewilderment wherever he goes. One thing's for sure. The world needs more people like Barry. People who aren't afraid to be themselves, no matter how weird or wacky they may seem. So the next time you're feeling down, remember Barry and his unstoppable humping. And don't be afraid to let your freak flag fly, even if it involves some questionable pelvic thrusts. After all, life's too short to be normal.